and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. In verse 19, Jacob prophesied that Ephraim would become greater than Manasseh, and that his seed would become a fullness of nations. After Joseph's death, Israel continued to multiply, but a new king rose up over Egypt who put the children of Israel in cruel bondage. He attempted to reduce Israel by ordering all of the male Israelite babies killed in Egypt. Moses was saved by his mother, raised in Pharaoh's household, but eventually driven from Egypt. We read in Exodus 2, verse 23, that during Moses' absence, and it came to pass in the process of time, that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God then sent Moses and brought the now 2 million or more Israelites out of Egypt with great signs and wonders, and brought them to Mount Sinai in the wilderness. There God made a covenant with these several million descendants of Abraham, saying to them in Exodus 19, verses 5 and 6, Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. God had said to Abraham, I will be a God to you and to your seed after you. That covenant was formalized with Abraham's seed in what we recognize as a marriage ceremony, with the bridegroom saying, Will you obey? And the bride answering, I will. Israel became God's wife. That the wife-husband relationship is correct is verified in several passages, including Isaiah 54 and verse 5, For thy Maker is thine husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth shall he be called. God gave Israel the 10 Commandments in stone, and several hundreds of other statutes and judgments, usually called God's law. The first commandment began, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. While Israel was in the wilderness learning the statutes and the judgments, God gave further promise of future greatness. In Deuteronomy 33, he gave a separate blessing to each of the tribes, with the greater blessing recorded for Joseph in verses 13 through 17. And of Joseph he said, Blessed of the Lord be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that coucheth beneath, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon, and for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills, and for the precious things of the earth, and fullness thereof, and for the goodwill of him that dwelt in the bush. Let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. This blessing can only mean that the descendants of Joseph were to have a land blessed with great agricultural harvests, wealth from the seas, and ores and minerals from the earth. The greatest portion of the Israel blessings would be fulfilled in the 2 sons of Joseph, who had been made the inheritors of the Abrahamic covenants, as we read in Genesis 48. After 40 years in the wilderness, Moses died, and Joshua brought Israel into Canaan land and established them there as a nation. They had been commanded to observe God's statutes and judgments, and commanded to destroy the Canaanites out of the land, so they would not be tempted to follow their gods and participate in their abominations. This Israel did not do, and as a consequence they suffered a series of captivities during the 400 years up to the time of David, as recorded in the book of Judges. Finally, David came to the throne in Israel in approximately 1050 BC, and in 40 years of war enlarged and secured Israel as one nation in Canaan land, ruling them from Zion and Jerusalem. At one point, according to 1 Chronicles 21, David had 1,300,000 men under arms, which would indicate that God's promise of increasing the seed of Abraham was being fulfilled, with perhaps 10 to 15 million people living in Palestine at that time. When David died, his son Solomon ruled for another 40 years, establishing an era of peace and prosperity and building the great temple to Jehovah. The Israel kingdom was so blessed it became the marvel of that part of the world. It seemed as if God's promises and prophecies of great increase and material blessings were being fulfilled. But after Solomon's death came a terrible blow. The nation was divided. The 10 northern tribes established their capital in Samaria. Jerusalem now ruled only the southern half of Israel. The rivalry between the two kingdoms, Judah and Israel, brought wars, corruption, and sin, even worship of Baal and the other gods of the wicked Canaanites who still lived among them. God sent prophets to them, warning them he would send alien nations against them who would take them captive into other lands. God called Israel's sin adultery and told her through Jeremiah and Hosea that he was divorcing her. Jeremiah 3, verse 8, "And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce." God said to the northern kingdom in verse 2 of the 2nd chapter of Hosea, "Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband." The northern house of Israel, therefore, was divorced and no longer the wife of Jehovah. God sent Assyria to conquer the northern Israel kingdom. The wars and deportations are recorded in 2 Kings chapters 16, 17, and 18. Here are a few pertinent verses. 2 Kings 17, verse 6, "In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah and in Habor by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes." Verse 18, "Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only." This was bad enough, but the Israelites in the Judah kingdom were also following the corrupted ways of the Edomites and Canaanites. So 7 years later, we read in 2 Kings 18:13, "Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them." This would have left only a small remnant of Israelites in the fortified city of Jerusalem by 700 BC. According to both the Bible and ancient historical accounts, these pagan empires used forcible evacuation to prevent rebellion at a later date. They moved non-Israelites into the vacated land of northern Israel, according to 2 Kings 17 and verse 24. "And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cutha and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof." So the two conquests of Assyria would have removed the vast majority of the Israelites into Assyria and out of the land of Palestine. The number removed would have been in the millions. The prophet Jeremiah continued to prophesy to the tiny remnant in Jerusalem. And in the 7th chapter of Jeremiah, he told these Judahites that because of their sin, God would abandon Jerusalem. Verse 14, "Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein ye trust, and unto the place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh." Shiloh was the place of the Ark of the Covenant, which God had turned over into the